Hey y'all, hey! Welcome back to Black Wolves Confessions with me, Jax. How's everybody doing today? Happy Friday, everybody. I am so glad for this weekend. I need it. It's been a crazy weekend. Crazy week of work. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say here. See, can you tell I'm ready for the fucking weekend? I'm ready for the fucking weekend, y'all. So I am going to be talking, and I am still looking at my little handy dandy notes here. I am going to be looking at my phone just to make sure that I'm staying on topic and I don't lose fucking control like sometimes that I do, because it happens. Y'all know I just kind of go a little left sometimes, and that's okay, y'all. All right, with Father's Day being Sunday, for those of you that are amazing dads and you know who you are, happy fucking Father's Day, y'all. I am so, like, I really hope that y'all just enjoy your fucking day. Like, I really do. Happy Father's Day. And to the mothers that are also fathers, happy Father's Day to you as well, because you're doing both roles. So happy Father's Day, everybody. I wanted to, like I said, talk about Father's Day and just fathers in general. And I think this will be a really good episode for a lot of people, because I know that there's so many people out there that don't have fathers or don't have mothers, or worse, both. And due to death, or because they're not part of their life for whatever reason, that parent decided not to be a part of their child's life, right? And so for me, I wanted to talk about just Father's Day. So when you hear Father's Day, what's the first feeling that comes up for you? Is it sadness because you didn't really have a dad growing up? Is it sadness because your dad passed away recently or years ago, if for some of you? Like, what is the feeling that you are feeling whenever you think of Father's Day? And I want to say, for a lot of people, it's complicated as hell for Father's Day, because they want to be able to celebrate, especially if they're in a family dynamic that they do have children. Like, you want to freaking go and celebrate with your own children for Father's Day, right? But then at the same token, like, you were sitting here like, damn, I wish my dad was here, right? And for, you know, for everyone, like, everybody assumes that Father's Day is just a happy fucking holiday. And for some of us, that's not the case. I can say, like, I don't know my real father. I have tried, but there's a language barrier. He's not really willing to learn English. I have tried to learn German, even though that was my first language. For whatever reason, I can't get it down again. And don't ask me why. Sorry. Um, and I had a, or I have, sorry, I have a stepdad, and he is my dad. He did raise me. And yes, I know that he did the best that he could, right? Like, there's no fucking manual for being a parent in general, right? So I know he did the best he could, but he was physically there, but emotionally he was never open, just being honest. And so that wasn't his domain. We had feelings, we went to mom, or we held it in. Most of the time we held it in, right? And so, Father's Day is, just like a lot of people, it's also complicated as hell for me, because although I do love my dad, it's also just a complicated situation, right? So for those of you that are lucky, and I'm gonna start with the nice first, right? If you had an amazing dad, and they are still here, like, what the fuck are y'all doing with him this weekend? Like, what are y'all gonna go do? Like, leave your comments below, because I'm really excited to hear about this. Like, for real. Like, what are the gifts that y'all are getting them? And trust me, they're probably not listening to me, so comment them below because I want to know. You know, it, like, what kind of, do y'all usually barbecue? I feel like for a long time, my family, we, on Mother's Day and Father's Day, we would always go over at our parents' house and we would usually have a barbecue of some kind, typically, or some type of food. Usually it was fajitas, from what I can remember, on Father's Day. Every now and then they surprised us, though, right? And so, what are y'all doing this Father's Day? Are y'all doing anything special? Are y'all just staying in and staying home with your babies? Are you having people come over? Like, what's y'all's game plan, y'all? Like, seriously, okay? And then, I also, okay, this is gonna be a different, like, I want to try to keep this light as airy as possible, but I also want to talk to those of us that, we trying to tread lightly here. I shouldn't. Sorry, I just ate not too long ago and I can feel the food. There's one spot thought I got it out. I'm sorry, y'all. I think I did that time. Sorry, y'all. I want to keep it light and airy, but I also want to, like, really touch some hearts of those of y'all that this is a complicated fucking holiday for you, right? And so I want to talk to those fathers that actually showed up, like those fathers that were emotionally available as much as they possibly could, because they were men, and most of our parents are boomers, right? We know boomers. They did not know how to talk about feelings very well, right? They had to learn as they aged. And the mistakes that parents in general, but obviously this is about fathers because it's Father's Day weekend, but mistakes that dads made and having healthy relationships with them today. You know what I mean? Like, what that looks like or should look like, or whatever the case might be, right? So I just wanted to kind of let you know I'm kind of touching on all of those bases today. So just putting that out there because I don't want y'all to be surprised. So I'm not gonna say recently because it's been a couple of months since I talked to this friend, but I had a friend that I talked to that literally kind of put something in perspective for me, how, like, my family was way different than their family was. Like, completely different. Their family was more of, let's stick together. How can we help you? You're an addict. What can we do to help you get out of this? With support, love, first and foremost, sorry, and understanding, right? Where I feel like a lot of my family dynamic, from even what he said, and this person has been in our life for a very long time and has seen multiple sides of our family, not just my inner circle of my immediate family, but even aunts and uncles as well. Okay, so this is going to be a broad spectrum of that. Okay, and he told me that one of the things that he remembers is just like, when we got in trouble, it was just spankings, usually. There was no really talking about it other than saying, you know better, stop pulling that shit, kind of thing, right? Where his family, and something that I would have done, or one of my family members would have done, right? Like, don't get me wrong, he would have still gotten punished from what he's saying. However, like, they made sure why they were getting punished, They made sure that he understood why he was getting punished. And so it was really interesting because him and I had this conversation, and because there's some things going on in my family right now that I'm not quite ready to talk about fully, but I will eventually. But there's some things going on in my family that he's just like, I just don't understand. Like, why can't your family just be loving, understanding, and trying to just comprehend what's going on in your mind? And I'm like, that's just not how we've ever been. Like, it's their way or no way, typically, for a lot of my aunts and uncles and my parents. Like, it definitely was that way. It's just, I think because of their generation, maybe. I don't know. I know that they did all, like, I truly know that they did the best that they knew how with the information they had. We're lucky, and also, I also hate to say this, but it's a back and forth balance on this, but we're lucky enough to have social media, Google, like I'm older than Google, if that doesn't tell you anything. Like, we all have that now, right? And so we're able to look up shit now. We're able to also talk to multiple people, fucking strangers for fuck's sakes, because a lot of the times, and I kind of remember this even early in my teenage years, like even like before the internet like really was big, right? I kind of remember like being afraid to ask my friends, like, is this how your household is, or anything like that. Like, I was already afraid of doing that, and I know a lot of my friends were too. But once the internet came out, I know I literally went and I talked to strangers about like my household and be like, hey, is this normal? Like, it was easier to talk to strangers than it was your friends and family for whatever fucking reason. And I feel like that is still the same to this date since the internet has come out. Like, I don't think, sadly, I don't know if that will ever fucking change unless you're doing something about it and you're being that cycle breaker. So, I know that for the generation, at least for my parents, okay, I'm going to talk on that because that's what I have experience with, right? Dads were supposed to go work, come home, have dinner on the table. Maybe we'll have a movie night occasionally, right? But his job was to keep a roof over our heads, and that was it. For the most part, that is what I know from a lot of my friends. That is how it was growing up. We were to be outside till the streetlights came on, for the most part, unless you had other responsibilities. Okay, I know mine was cooking dinner and having it done by the time my dad was home. I do know that. And I know for some other friends of mine, they had little siblings, so they could only be gone for a couple of hours and then have to be home because they had to take care of their younger siblings, right? It just all depends on your circumstances. And then where moms were supposed to be this, make your dinner, keep the house clean, take care of the fucking kids, make sure homework was done with the kids. Dad didn't really help with that very much, at least in the generation that a lot of my friends didn't have that either. It was not just me. That's a whole nother story. Never mind, not going in there. And so I want to just say that because, like, it's not just my household that was like this. We had to count on my mom to do a lot of things, and I feel like that is how most people in my generation grew up, right? Some people, I know, okay, let me backtrack. I know that, and to this day, we're still struggling with this, so I do want to, like, say this, like, Men aren't allowed to have emotions, which is why the moms are supposed to be the ones that are taking care of the emotional side of your children, right? Typically. I feel like we are having some headway on that, and I do feel like more and more men are finally getting their emotional shit together and allowing it to come out. But there are still some that are not, right? There are some that still think that seeing a man cry makes them weak. So they are not allowed to cry. And I am going to say this to those of you men that happen to be listening to this. Y'all need to quit that shit. Honestly, seeing emotion on a man is fucking phenomenal. Obviously, just like us, we're not allowed to be too emotional. So don't be too emotional. But when it's warranted, fucking be emotional, man. Like, I don't understand why all these other generations are being told, don't cry, it makes you look weak just because you're a man. Blah, 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 blah. Like, that's bullshit. It doesn't. And so for me, it's really frustrating to see this world, and it honestly makes me scared for my son. And I'm really hoping that I'm doing a really good job, at least on my end, to allow him to have those emotions so that he can be a fucking fantastic father one day. Because at the end of the day, that is what we're doing as parents, right? We're trying to make our children fucking fantastic adults one day. And I hope that I'm doing a good job on that part. And so, some people with healthy families don't realize how different the experience can be for other families unless you're friends with somebody that has an unhealthy family, period. Just like my friend that I was telling you about. He still is trying to figure it out to this day because we had to have a conversation about it. And still doesn't see some things, and then, he's just like, that's not how that works though, Jackie. And I'm just like, yeah, I know. In the real world, we know this. But for whatever reason, I guess whenever you're in a situation long enough and you're dealing with the same shit over and over again for so many fucking years, and we're talking for most of this generation, we're talking about boomers, they've all been alive for over 50 years, right? So this is the life that they've lived for so long. They don't know how to change that. Unless they actually truly want to, they're not going to. Why fix something that ain't broke to them, right? And I feel like a lot of people, and I'm not even going to just blame this on the boomers, this is even the people, whatever generations before them, because I don't remember, sorry y'all, and so forth. Like, this is generational. We never learned how to be a healthy family fully if that's not what you grew up with, period. This is a learned behavior to be healthy. It shouldn't be, but for a lot of generations and a lot of people, that is the case. But I will say, it shouldn't be. We shouldn't have to learn that. Shouldn't have to learn good behavior. Shouldn't have to change everything that you grew up with and scratch that and say, that's not right. Okay, let's figure this out all over again. At fucking 20, 25 years old, or whatever, however old you are, whenever you have that epiphany, like, ooh, my life was not okay. That's not how I want to parent. For a lot of us millenniums, right? And I say this because I have a lot of friends in my generation that have said this. A lot of us learn what not to do as parents from our parents. Simple as that. And actually, I just had this conversation with one of my other friends. Like, a lot of us learn what not to do from our parents, not what to do from our parents. If you got that pull, right? Like, and a lot of us learn the same traits as our parents, and we had to break those traits if we didn't like them. Or for some of us, we're still doing it, right? And I'm glad to say that I've almost broken all of my traits that I feel like I did not like about myself as a parent. I'm almost there. I still have moments. Don't get me wrong. I'm not fucking perfect. But I am damn proud of how far I've come. I will say that. Damn proud. And so, like, I think that that truly does fucking matter, right? But not everybody got the version of a father. And I wanted to say that because we had dads, right? Whether they were actually being father figures or not, that's for your household to know, right? And for those of you that didn't have a father, an actual father, the present father that wanted to hang out with them all the time and things like that, like, that life sucked. I will say that. I It just did. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. Like I said, I'm also trying to still keep this a lighter fucking episode. So the dads who was there but wasn't. So I know I kind of already touched on this a little bit, but I feel like I already kind of talked about this. Actually, literally, I kind of, I guess, skipped over a little bit, right? I do want to ask you questions though on this part because, like I said, this is fathers who provide financially, fathers who work at all the time, fathers who were physically present but emotionally absent, not knowing how to connect with your dad, feeling like you never really knew him. And I truly, that's one thing that I really hate. Like, I don't think that I really actually got to know my dad, like, as an actual person until well in my 30s. Late 20s, early 30s. Let me put it that way. And I still don't think I fully know him. And I don't think that I ever will, personally. Like, he's just not that type of person. And that's okay. Like, he's been through some shit in his life, and I get it. I understand that, just like we all have. But, like, can a dad love you and still hurt you? Like, is that even true? Like, I don't know. Only dads can answer that. And then, can someone do their best and still leave wounds? Absolutely. I'm going to answer that one. Absolutely. I know that, like I've said, I know my parents tried their fucking best. And I think most of our parents tried their fucking best, right? And I do think that just because they tried their best doesn't mean that it was the best. And that doesn't mean that they didn't leave fucking wounds. Period. Okay? Okay. And then the missing dad, which, like I said, I kind of already touched on. Like, yes, I had a stepdad, and I get that. I understand that, okay? And a lot of my friends weren't lucky to have a stepdad or a good one. And I know that. Right? But absent fathers, just who kind of picks and choose when they wants to be around their children. That's what I mean by that, okay? Fathers who left. So, I don't know. I know technically we left my real father. He's still in Germany. But I was 5 when we left Germany. Like, I had a fucking choice, right? So, I know my story is a tiny bit different about that, and I get that, and I understand that. But I will say, he did come to the States once, but then he left. And so for me, I think that was my 12th birthday, if I remember correctly, when he came. He promised that he would be back for my brother's birthday, my little brother, and then he never came back. So for me, that is him leaving. And I know the adult person now that I am, I understand that that really wasn't the situation, right? Obviously, he probably just didn't have the funds. And, you know, on top of that, my mom was hard to deal with. I know she was, especially with him. She despised him. Rightfully, not getting into that story, but she despised him. So I get it. I understand. And honestly, he wasn't a good person. I remember bits and pieces of that visit, and I just remember him being drunk all the time. So honestly, rightfully so, like my mom probably made it difficult, and my dad probably did as well. And that's okay. It is what it is at this point. But the child in me didn't understand that. Child in me just wanted my daddy. Even though I had a good stepdaddy for the most part. We'll get into that story one day. But I know my stepdad did the best that he could. Okay, I get that. But I still wanted my other daddy, my real daddy, in my head, back when I was a kid, right? And then fathers who choose other things. So in my case, my real dad kept choosing alcohol, right? That's what I mean by that. Like, that sucks whenever... I think it sucks even more because I know there's been plenty of people that I know that had alcoholic dads at home. But they're choosing that alcohol or the drugs or whatever the fucking thing might be, right? Other women cheating on their mom all the time. You know what I mean? Like, well, obviously their spouse, but for the child, their mom, right? But just knowing that your father's choosing other things instead of you. That sucks. I've lived it. I know. And then fathers who come around only when it was convenient. I lived that for a little while as well. Not my dad's other things. I lived that. And that, I think, is worse for a child. Like having a... I think having a dad that just completely disappears, honestly, is... not going to say that it's not going to fuck up the child, because I get it, but I think having a father come and go whenever he pleases, and the child not knowing when the next visit is, even though custody paperwork says, hey, it's first, third, and fifth weekend, where the fuck is my dad? Because they know this is the third weekend, or whatever the case might be, right? And dad doesn't show up. I know a lot of people living this life right now. A lot. Right? And I think that is worse on a child than just a dad not coming around at all. For a little while, I thought that that was better. I honestly did. I honestly, truly believe that having some of dad versus no dad, because I had no dad, right? My real dad was not around. That's what I mean by no dad, right? And then obviously I had a dad at home, but he wasn't present, right? Not really. Not the way that I felt like a dad should be, in my opinion. But again, that's what they knew back then. I can't fault them for that. And so I really truly thought that having some dad is better than no dad. Boy, was I wrong. I think that fucked up people more than it should have. Okay? And the wound isn't always angry. It's really not. I feel like sometimes dealing with some of this stuff growing up as a child, because I do feel like I kind of grew up with a lot of this, right? It's just... it made me sad more than angry a lot of the times, to be honest with you. Like growing up without my real dad, right? It just made me sad. Like, why can't he just stop drinking for me? Am I not worth it to him? Things like that. I know I question myself several fucking thousands of times, I'm sure. Like, is my brother and I not worth it to him to just stop drinking and figure out a way to come to the States and be with us and things like that? Like, I would ask that question so many times. So many times. Sometimes it's wondering why you weren't enough. Like I said, it really is. It just really is. Just why am I not good enough for him to quit drinking? And then, oh, excuse me. And then knowing that I think this is another one. For some of us, we also find out that our fathers end up having kids with a whole nother woman, right? And then he's actually a good dad to them. Wasn't my case in my case at all. My little brother that I've never met, but I do speak to occasionally. It's actually been a minute. I probably need to check on him, actually, speaking of. But he didn't have a good life either. Not with him. And honestly, he is grateful that I'm here and I didn't have to deal with what he had to deal with. And it's sad because I'm the older sister, the oldest, from my real dad, right? And it's sad that he even said that to me one time. Just is, right? And honestly, I feel like more people should talk about that part, honestly. Like, just the fathers that come around when it's only convenient, somebody choosing a substance or people above you, right? But I will say, like, having a dad end up going and having family with a whole nother woman and having a whole nother family with somebody, I can't imagine that hurt. And it actually be a successful fucking family. Now, if as much as I hate to say this, but whenever your other siblings end up having the kind of similar life that you did with your dad, like, it makes it like not hurt as bad for whatever reason. I know, I hate to say that, but it does. Like, it really does make it feel a little better and be like, okay, well, he can't even be successful the second go around. What the fuck? You know what I mean? And then it just puts things in even more perspective for you. But whenever your dad actually has a successful second family, so to speak, right? That's hard to deal with. I feel like it's truly hard to deal with. Like, what crawled up your ass and made you dad of the year all of a fucking sudden, but you're still not there for me. What the fuck, right? Like, I know so many people that have gone through this, and I can't imagine, like, the shit that they had to deal with that. Like, that, I don't know. I didn't live that. I don't have experience on that, so I can't honestly speak on that completely, but I can just imagine, like, how heartbreaking that could be for a person. Like, it truly can. And I think that makes me really fucking sad for some people, right? And then becoming the parent you needed. I feel like I've kind of already talked a little bit about this. Like, I feel like your childhood shapes your parenting, right? I kind of was touching on this a little bit where, doing things consciously different than what your parents did, learning from their mistakes and knowing, hey, I know how that made me feel as a kid. I'm definitely not doing that to my fucking child this time, or you know what I mean? And then just things like that, right? And then also, like, being hard on yourself because you do end up being like your parents at some point. It's embedded in you, guys. You have to remember. For some of us, we weren't parents super young. I wasn't a parent until my late 20s. And so I had over 25 years of my parents in my head, not parenting yet, being a phenomenal aunt. I do know that. But being an aunt is completely different than being a parent. And so, and then I have god babies and all of that. And, you know, so when you have it in your head that you're going to be different than your parents, but then when you are actually a parent, right? And then you make the same mistakes that your parents made. Whether that is mental disorders not being taken care of. I feel like that one was my big one. That was my biggest regret, is not getting it taken care of sooner. Just getting my mental health in order. It truly did, like, that time of my life was a blur, to be honest with you, because honestly, I'm trying to tune it out. I'm trying to remember as much as I can. Don't get me wrong, because I want to help my kids heal from that whenever the time comes. Because I know they had some trauma from that. Okay, I yelled a lot. I was just like my mother and father then. They always yelled all the time. And that was one thing that I said that I was never going to do. And then I ended up becoming that parent for a little while. But it's because of my mental health being so fucked up. I had just a little backstory so you know. I had postpartum, whatever. Okay, whatever it is called whenever you're pregnant and you have the depression thing, right? I had that. Then I had postpartum. Then immediately I was pregnant again. Literally within 6 months, I got pregnant again with my second. And so went through the depression state of that, right? And then had postpartum again, got pregnant again, lost that baby. So of course I was sad then. And I think when I lost my third, I think that one was probably the worst, like, depression that I probably had, to be honest. I feel like I was a pretty decent mom for the first 18-ish months or so to 2 years, I would say. I get back with my kid's father. Well, the third pregnancy happened while I was with him, right? But we're living together and all this other stuff. And then obviously that loss happened, and then we get the bigger house because we needed the space, right? And I feel like when we got that big house, it just all went out to shit for me, honestly. I felt stuck. Because of the loss, I just saw him in a different light. And then a year after that loss, I ended up getting a hysterectomy. And that was shitty. I literally had a good 18 months to 2 years that it was just a shit show for me. I was skeeting by. I was so depressed. I didn't feel like a woman anymore. I felt like my body just failed me. All sorts of things. So when I say that I understand that my parents did their best, I truly do believe that they did. Because I truly, truly, truly believe that mentally they weren't okay all the time. I can kind of look back in my childhood and kind of realize when my parents were depressed and when they were good. Like, truly. And it definitely was worse whenever they were depressed. And I lived through it. And now I understand. Like, it is hard being a parent and still trying to figure out the depression state. And trying to still make sure your kids are clothed and fed and showered and whatever else, right? Still have a roof over their heads because you still have to work. Even though you're depressed, it doesn't fucking matter. Get your shit together and go to work. I literally skated by. And during that time, I was actually in school, hair school. And so, like I said, those first 2 years of being back with their dad, that's how I knew he wasn't the one. Because instead of me getting happy, I really did go down as a person. I truly did. And my kids unfortunately paid for it. And I know they did. And that sucks. And as much as I'm gonna try not to cry here. As much as it sucked that I put my children through that, like when I finally started doing therapy, my goal was to get out of that mess because I didn't want to repeat what my parents did. Because they kept going through that cycle over and over and over again, right? Where most boomers did, honestly. All my friends' moms or parents in general went through this cycle, right? A lot of them did. They didn't believe in fucking therapy. Like, therapy? That's for wimps. We got this. No, motherfuckers, no, y'all don't. Y'all really don't. And hell, I even know that part of my generation still doesn't believe in therapy. And I'm just like, bitch, stop. Like, why are you doing this? Like, just go get the help. I promise you, it really does work. And I feel like that is the hardest part for so many people, is just getting the help and doing the work. Because getting help and not actually doing the work that follows with it, you're not going to get results. And I know for like the first 6 months of my therapy stuff, I really wasn't putting in the work. Maybe 9 months, 6 to 9 months, right? Really probably wasn't. I was just talking about my feelings over and every week. It was the same shit every single time. My therapist literally looked at me one time and said, Jackie, I already know all this. Are you going to tell me something else? What are you going to do to fix that? Like, and I don't know if y'all know, a lot of therapists don't do that. After that, I knew she was my therapist. And she's still my therapist to this day, although while I'm in trauma therapy, we are not seeing each other at the moment. But she will still be my therapist until one of us dies. Or she doesn't practice anymore, I'm just saying. Because she puts me in my place when I need to be. Like, and that's the kind of help you need. You don't need a therapist that just listens to you every week and says, how's that make you feel? What the fuck is that going to do for you? Nothing. Trust me. For the first 15 years of me trying to do therapy, that's exactly what I got. And then I would do maybe 3 sessions max before I'm like, fuck this therapist. I didn't want that. That's not what I wanted, right? And so things you're consciously doing different, and that is one of them. I really truly believe that that is one thing that I'm consciously doing differently, for sure. And then, like I said, the things you accidentally repeat, and then breaking generational cycles. Like, I truly believe that what I'm doing is trying to break those generational cycles. Am I going to break them all? Maybe not, but that's okay. If I can just break some of them, I'd be happy and proud of myself. And I'm hoping that I'm going to give the tools to my children to break it even more. And then their kids can break it even more. And so forth, and so forth, and so forth. It's honestly what I hope for. So I want to know in the comments and everything, what did your parents teach you growing up? Whether it's good or bad. And then what did they teach you not to do? Again, even good or bad. Most of it obviously is going to be bad, but maybe there was something that you kind of liked, but then you just kind of feel like it just didn't, you found something better or something. I don't know. So yeah. And I guess the last topic I'm going to talk about is the co-parenting and Father's Day. Because I feel like for my generation, unfortunately, there's a lot of divorcees happening around here, right? And, or just single mamas and single daddies, right? They're all out there right now. I feel like our marriage rate is just plummeting, right? Plummeting. Um, I know there was a few times that I ended up having kids on Father's Day because their dad didn't come get them. And that's the part that I really want to talk about because I feel like I'm pretty sure I went to my parents' house. So they knew, like, we were saying Happy Father's Day to my dad, right? And I know my son, he's the questioner mostly. Not saying that my daughter doesn't, but my son is the questioner. And I know he's asked me several questions. Well, why am I not with my dad today? Right? Like, I don't know, buddy. That's a daddy question. I guess he was busy. And for a really long time, I was making up a lot of excuses for him. I really was. And as a co parent, because you want to, I never wanted my kids to look at their dad badly. I really didn't. And honestly, still to this day, I don't want that. Now, if it happens because of his own fucking doing, that's on him, right? But I never wanted to be that person to make him look bad. And I know I tried my hardest not to make that happen. And I feel like I honestly did a pretty fucking good job, to be honest. Did I fuck up every now and then? I'm sure I fucking did. I'm sure they might have accidentally walked in on me talking about him and talking shit about him, right? Throughout the years. I know I've been very careful now in the last couple of years that I don't do that shit anymore. Like, if I have my kids, I don't talk about their dad at all. Unless I know for a fact, 100% sure they are passed out in their bedrooms. And even then, I still try not to. So, which honestly, I have nothing bad to say anymore about him. Like, he knows how I feel about him. It is what it is at this point. And now my kids will get to make up their own mind one day. And that's okay. And just like they're going to make up their own mind about me and their rest of their fucking family, right? They get to do that. They are allowed to make that decision. And that is one thing that I am going to definitely teach my children. They get that choice. Period. But I know there was a couple years that I would help them make Father's Day cards or whatever. And, you know, when you're in that co-parenting, I'm going to say wishful thinking. I'm not going to say that that is not the case for some of y'all, and fucking fantastic for y'all. I am so glad that your co-parenting dynamic works out for you where y'all can be friends. And at this point, I thought I could be friends with him, right? And so I was helping the kids with that. Obviously, that is not the fucking case if you didn't catch that. I had to learn the hard way on like making these cards with them to give to their dad, because majority of the time they would go put it in their room and then they couldn't find it again and they were upset, and then, you know, their dad never even got it majority of the time because they would forget about it, right? But I want to say, like, co-parenting during Father's Day weekend, and for whatever reason, thank God mine isn't like this, but I know there's people out there that literally this is their weekend with their children, right? That, like, their normal weekend. And but then they have to go to their dads. So some of y'all have to deal with the dads on Father's Day. Thank God that's not like mine. Mine is he gets to keep them the entire weekend. Not a big deal, right? But for some of y'all have to deal with seeing your kid's dad on Father's Day. And it's the difference about your feelings and your kids' feelings. Like, just because you may not like the man or whatever, you're having to be like, hey, happy Father's Day, because your kids are watching you, right? You want to be nice. Now, if you don't get out of the vehicle, you don't have to do any of that, and it doesn't really matter. The kids aren't going to care, right? But if your kids are watching, I can't tell you how many times I would be like, happy Father's Day, I hope you had a good one. Even though I didn't mean it. Because I wanted to do a good example for my kids. And I can't tell you the amount of my friends that have had to do the same thing. Right? And then kids should just not be put in the middle of the drama. Be amicable. I can't ever say that word right. I keep trying and I always fuck it up. I'm sorry, y'all. But just be nice, right? And this isn't the time to fight with your baby daddy. It just isn't. It's not the time to fight with your baby mama. It just isn't. Like, leave it the fuck alone. If you want to say happy Father's Day to your co-parent, then go for it. But you don't fucking have to do anything, right? But be nice. Especially if your kids are around. The kids should not be seeing their parents hating each other. When my kid's dad and I are in the same room with the children, they don't know any different. We might sit in separate places sometimes, sure. You know, him and his wife are in one spot. Me and my man are in another spot. That's cool. I know, like, their play, that's what we did. It is what it is, right? But letting the kids love both parents equally. And remember, your kids are half of him. For those moms out there that are petty. And if you are one of those petty moms, that'll be another episode. But you're not going to like that episode. You might want to skip that unless you actually want to learn something. But letting your kids love both parents, like, that is huge. Like, so huge. Anyways, but other father figures, and I kind of just want to, like, don't forget kind of moment here, right? There's stepdads, there's grandfathers, there's uncles, there's coaches, there's mentors, and there's just family friends, right, that are males, that are stepping up and helping the moms out and just stepping up and being that father figure for those children. And, you know, these people, just some people's dad wasn't their biological father. And for those of you that are not biological fathers, that are stepping up and doing your fucking best and showing them how a loving man is supposed to be, how a healthy man looks, and all of that, thank you. Truly, truly, truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Because all these kids need that. Some type of fucking good fatherly behavior in their life. So, you know, your little boys ends up turning out to be good dads, and your little girls don't choose shitty men. Right? But I do want to just say thank you to those non-biological fathers being fathers out there. So I'm going to leave y'all with a few questions. I know this is totally different than what I normally do. But I want y'all to answer in the comments, for one, right? But I also want you to actually ask this of yourself, right? What makes someone an actual father? Is it because they impregnated somebody and there's a child in the world, does that mean because they're sperm donors, like little actual sperm donors, that makes them a father once some rando woman gets pregnant with their child? Like, what makes someone an actual father? Right? Is it biology? Is it just showing up? Is it consistency? Is it love? Or is it sacrifice? And no matter what Father's Day looks like for you this year, whether you're celebrating, grieving, angry, healing, or somewhere just in fucking between, I hope you give yourself permission to feel exactly what you feel this Father's Day. And I'm going to leave it at that. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and remember, we are officially everywhere. I finally figured out how to upload last week's video to YouTube, so hopefully I can get this one up quicker than last week's. I really appreciate y'all following me along this journey, and that's episode 2. Peace out, y'all. I hope y'all have a fantastic Father's Day and great weekend, and I will talk to y'all later, y'all. Bye, y'all.